845, varsity man up. It's game time, everybody stand up for my town.
Justin Rodriguez here with another edition of the Varsity 845 Football Podcast with my co-host Kevin Gleason. Kevin, nice to have you back.
Thank you, Justin. It's good to be here.
All right. Now that we have the pleasantries in, we can talk about last week. Plenty of games. And then we'll move on to our special guest from Burke Catholic, Mike Martinelli, linebacker, and running back Matt Prisbacki, who is starting to run wild. But let's talk about last week. Some key games. Newburgh 41, Washingtonville 21. Washingtonville was with them for a half. Newburgh pulled away. Obviously, Newburgh loses Anthony DeBose. 1-game suspension after referees call him for helmet-to-helmet contact. A lot of, obviously there was a protest from Newburgh Athletic Director Jason Simo. They were told that DeBose was warned. That's something that Coach Bill Bianco said he never heard. Executive Director of Section 9, Bob Thabit, said it's just a judgment call, something he can't overturn. There was some video. It did look shoulder to shoulder. At the end of the day, my take is it's a tough break. I would have loved to see Anthony play. I just think if you get into the whole gist here of overturning high school referees' decisions, it would just open a Pandora's box, just coaches whining about a lot of different things. Or complaining, and maybe rightfully so.
Well, yeah.
But I just think it's tough all around, and I would have this game of Newburgh's playing Monroe on Saturday, so we'll talk a lot about that. This game could really use Anthony DeBose. It'll be great regardless.
There's no doubt. I mean, to me, it seems like there's a lot of gray area to this rule, and I'd like it spelled out real clearly. And I understand Thabit's inability to overturn the official's call, and I understand that. But there's a decent chance that the official made a lousy call on this. If it's on the video and the kid didn't blatantly spear the other kid, I think you got to err on the side of not getting the kid suspended for a game. I really do. I mean, that's a pretty harsh penalty. It better be pretty flagrant to me if you're gonna sit him out of a game. That's all.
The ejection carried a 1-game suspension. The other thing too, though, in the ref's defense, they were told, as a whole, to watch out for this. They were looking to be, cautious, safety. You don't want to see anyone get hurt. Again, I just think it's a tough call all around. It warranted, the ejection warrants a 1-game suspension. And Jason Simo wasn't arguing the call, but the suspension.
Right. And
that's where I think he had a really good point.
Well, me too. I mean, that's why, as an official, you better be darn sure that this is going to warrant the ejection, which is a 1-game suspension, because I mean that's what you're costing a kid a game. To me, it better be pretty flagrant. It better be obvious to everybody, and it sounds to me like it wasn't obvious to everybody.
You know what? You said gray area, and now that we talk about it, I'm going to come around. I look at it like this: refs, okay, you got to keep the game safe. I'm not going to complain about that. Then you have the call where it seems a little questionable, and then Simo makes a good point with protesting, because you can't appeal an ejection, protesting the way the rule was interpreted. And, again, he did a great job. Mr. Thabit with Section 9, does a good job. I think at the end of the day, maybe DeBose should be playing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it has to be cut and dry, a 1-game suspension. I mean, I think there should be something in the book that should allow them to go back, and if they have film of the play, look at the play. I mean, they have instant replay in the NFL. This is basically a post-game instant replay. Look at the play, and if the kid clearly didn't, commit the infraction that he's being suspended for, then just take the game off.
The other thing, too, though, I think if it wasn't Monroe, it would be a lot easier to swallow for Newburgh if it was just another team.
No doubt.
So that's another thing. But again, at the end of the day, Anthony's a good young man, and I feel for him. And, like I said, it's going to be a wonderful game, but it would be even better with him. And, we'll see him down the road.
Changes the dynamics of that game.
Yeah, obviously now Newburgh had Forbes and DeBose. They can now key on Forbes, who had a big game against Washingtonville. 2 more touchdowns rushing, 2 more receiving, over 100 yards in both categories. But still, keying on Aaron Forbes without having DeBose in the backfield, it makes it tough. We didn't want to spend too much time on that, but obviously it was one of the big stories. Last week, I covered Monroe over Minisink 24-11, and by the way, I almost nailed the score.
I think I believe, if I remember correctly, I said 2 touchdowns, but not that I'm patting myself on the back. No, it sounds to me like not having been to the game like you were, and talking to the Minisink people last week that they have a tough team. They played them tough for a long time, and I just had the feeling that Monroe is going to be able to pull away a little bit.
Monroe was up 24-3, but right. they hung in there, and Minisink is definitely
they're a player. Minisink's a player.
Yep. They will play Valley Central this week. We'll get into that real quick. But Middletown 2013 over the Cardiac Kids, Valley Central.
How about that? I mean, how about Middletown? They have a miracle win over Port. They come right back and they beat a really good Valley Central, an unbeaten Valley Central team that had won 2 miracle games itself. Sounded like a great game, but not taking anything away from Valley Central, and I'm not rooting for Middletown, but it's kind of good. Middletown really needed a win like that to get going. I really think they needed that win.
They lose that Port Jervis game, they're probably 0-3. They probably lose to VC. Now they're 2-1.
Yep.
Big game for Middletown this week. They gotta open that divisional schedule with a win. It's at Kingston, 0-3, but in Dietz Stadium, it's not going to be.
Yeah, you know what? I don't have a great handle on how that's going to go for Middletown, but my gut tells me that Kingston's going to be ready to get in the win column right there.
Well, Kingston played Warwick at Dietz tough last week, but Warwick pulled away. Warwick did a nice job in that game, really in a dogfight, and they ended up winning 36-22. So it won't be easy. The other games last week, Tri-Valley goes to 3-0 after a winless season. Sullivan West with a blowout of Rondow Valley, 40-13.
How about that?
And guess what, Kevin? Here's a trivia question for you. Week 4 hasn't started, but Sullivan West is already 4-0.
Oh, they got a forfeit?
Over Rensselaer. So Sullivan
The
West.
Rensselaer Rams, up my old stomping grounds outside of Albany. Yeah, well, you kind of glossed over Tri-Valley. Eldred apparently was a barn burner. Eldred missed a deuce with a couple minutes left, I believe. That would have put him ahead.
Wallkill 28, Port 8. 3 touchdowns.
Wallkill's good. We knew that.
Gomez, the wide receiver.
Yep, we would really hope Port can get it together here, and you hope they weren't still smarting from the week before.
They have Poughkeepsie this week. I'm going to take Port. Poughkeepsie's a little undermanned. They took a nice little beating from New Paltz.
That was an eye-opener. It's an eye-opening win for Tommy Tagler's boys right there.
I think Poughkeepsie has some numbers issues. But,
we're not talking about a 3-point win there. It's a 20-point win.
We got to give Highland a nice come-from-behind win over Red Hook, 34-23. That Class B Division I with also Rondout and Marlboro. That'll be a nice division.
What's up with Pine Bush? Well, why is Pine Bush 0-3 is what I want to know.
You know what? They don't have Mike Martin, the running back.
Right.
Okay. They don't have maybe some of the stud linemen.
They've lost some guys.
They have quarterback Dan McNamara, who did a wonderful job of just running the team, nothing spectacular. They're missing out on him. And they're a little banged up. And
Roosevelt's good.
And they might have been overrated by me and themselves, because I know they were pretty confident coming into the season. And now they're looking at, possibly, 0-4 against Warwick this week. And they haven't played Monroe and Newburgh yet. So times are tough.
Yeah, there's no doubt. How about Cornwall, Marlboro? Cornwall took care of business.
Yeah, 20-6.
7, that's right.
20-7. But Marlboro was up 7-6.
Yep.
And they played them tough. So
played them tougher than anybody else on their schedule so far.
Yep, and I thought that was a nice job. Marlboro will play. We're going to get into that rematch of the Class B championship, but no shame in that one. So
no.
That was and did we mention Goshen gets 40-18 over Monticello, first win of the season. They really struggled on offense the first two weeks. I picked Monticello. I can't figure out Monticello, but no disrespect, I don't see myself picking them much going forward. I love Eric Hipsman. I'm kidding, of course, but Goshen, I had picked Monticello. Goshen puts 40 points up on the board after really struggling against Warwick and Burke. So we'll see. They have Cornwall this week, so let's just say they probably won't put up 40 points again.
Yeah.
But it was nice to get that.
No,
win.
it's a good breakout for Goshen. No doubt, a good breakout. Because I think Monticello, and not just having talked to people close to Monticello, but other people, they respect that Monticello team. I mean, that's a tough group of kids. So Goshen clearly played a great game there.
Well, also, and we did say Warwick is another 3-0 team. They lost a ton of players, so they deserve a lot of credit. They have the new running back Trevor Pinkham has run for 100 yards in every game. Brendan Bauer, quarterback, as a sophomore. They brought in Brad Garcia just to change things up. Now he's back. He's been very solid.
Yep.
And I have to say, he's been better than I thought he would be. I know he would be good, but he's been good. So we definitely have to give him credit.
Our buddy Egan, don't forget.
Dermot Egan, tight end. Yep, of course.
And of course, a former podcast guest.
Yep, it was great to have him. So that's it. We look back at last week. We're going to come back with our guests, Mike Martinelli, linebacker from Burke, and running back Matt Prisbacki. And after that, we'll look at this week's upcoming games. So stay tuned. Okay, we're back with our guests from Burke Catholic, running back Matt Prisbacki and linebacker Mike Martinelli, who have helped Burke to a 3-0 start. Guys, thanks for coming in.
No problem.
So just tell me, you move up to Class B this year, and obviously there were some expectations. So far, so good. You've beaten Chester, a very good Class D team, your rival, Goshen, a Class A school, and then last week you played your first divisional game, Class B Division II. You beat Spackenkill 56-20. So Matt, how's the team looking so far?
Everyone's looking good. We worked all summer, and we're ready. We got Ellenville this week, and we want to beat them. We want to go 1-0 every week.
Okay, and for you, Mike, just tell me about the next stretch of games. You have Ellenville, Red Hook, a Class B game, then Dover, and then we're going to jump ahead because it's the game that people will want to see. You have Marlboro. Just tell me, some of those teams, and then leading into the Marlboro game.
Right. Well, every team we like to take a different angle for. There shouldn't be any problem. And continue over next week. We'll just focus. We'll break down the film. We'll work hard like we usually do. Go 1-0 every week. That's our game plan. And skip it ahead to Marlboro. Definitely caught our eye because they're the powerhouse of Class B, so to speak. And it's definitely a game to look forward to. And it's definitely a game we're ready for.
Okay.
I was going to ask you, Mike, you always say, I'm sure that's always part of the mantra, 1-0 each week, and the coaches
Right.
want you to think that, and you want to think that too, but, how is it as a kid, you see Marlboro on the schedule in a few weeks, I mean, is it difficult to not at least think hard about them, or is that something that you kind of just forget about until the time comes, or you're already, like, in the back of your mind thinking, I can't wait for Marlboro to get here?
I mean, everyone has their favorites. Me personally, I can't wait till Marlboro. I wish every week was Marlboro, but
Yep.
The mindset we want to go is focus on the team that's our week, focus on their game plan, their strategy, and work on that. But you seem to stray a little every once in a while, but we're going to try and focus game by game, week by week, and when Marlboro's time comes, then Marlboro's time comes.
How hard is that? I mean, with teammates, do you have to constantly remind them of that?
You got to snap them back in.
You do, because, I mean, NFL players do that, so I'm sure kids do it. They look forward, they look ahead to games, and, they have the old sandwich game in the NFL when you get caught thinking ahead. So that's kind of a daily process to make sure everybody's focused on.
It is, and I definitely catch myself in that once or twice.
Sure.
Just looking over, peeking at Marlboro, looking at their stats, trying to catch a peek at their film.
Sure.
But I watched. Who did we just play? I watched Spackenkill's.
That's a good sign. You've already forgotten about the last game, so you're looking ahead. That's good.
Yeah, and I've been watching Ellenville's film from last year,
Yep.
and I've watched the film we have. So I really just try to watch film as much as I can and maybe once in a while peek over huddles, Marble, but we really just try to focus on it, listen to what our coach says, and we'll be all right. I mean, it worked for us so far.
Sure, absolutely.
Matt, for you, last year, varsity 845, first team All-Star, the ultimate honor. Class C All-State, first team, not bad. Not as good as varsity 845. No, I'm kidding, of course. But
you're safety on varsity 845.
We had a maneuver. Well, you played both ways.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'm going to ask you another question. What I was going to tell you is, before I ask you that question about your hot start, how's this? We do a V845 fantasy Section 9 football team. I'm going to rig it somehow so I have you and Aaron Forbes as my running backs. I'll trade Kevin, some backup, Pine Plains lineman or something. I'll try to swing a deal to get you or Aaron on my team. Okay. So what do you think of that as a nice backfield, you and Aaron Forbes?
That's pretty good. I used to play against him in youth football. He was always he was a good running back back then too.
Yeah, I used to tackle him.
Yeah. What team were you guys in youth? Did you play?
Pine Bush.
Play for Pine Bush.
Yeah, they were the first Super Bowl that they won.
Yeah. What year was that?
What was it, 2008?
2008.
Okay, yeah. I guess my son's in youth football now, so I follow pretty closely.
Oh yeah, it was a blast.
It's pretty cool.
We had everyone on that team. We had Dylan Eller, Jimmy Swan.
That's a good team.
Jonathan Vasquez.
Yeah, I posted a picture
Marcus.
I think last year with some of you guys.
Anthony Pratt was on there too.
It was old school. Yeah. So Matt, 9 touchdowns, close to over 500 yards in your first 3 weeks. You picked up where you left off. How are you feeling? Are you stronger than last year? Just tell me how you're feeling.
Yeah, I feel a lot stronger. I matured more. I think I grew older, and I feel better. Everyone on the team's bigger and badder, I guess you could say. So we're looking good, and yeah.
Now, Kevin, one of the reasons why I wanted to have Mike on the show is this is the best quote in Section 9.
Is that right? Good.
Did you see
that's an important factor for us. No
Did you see that clip on YouTube of the Texas football player who gave that
the inspirational speech?
After the game? He was pretty good. I would like to get the two of you in a room. So just tell me real quick, and I'll hand it over to Kevin. Just tell me you speak your mind. Some people are afraid to. You're outspoken. You're honest. I don't think you've offended anyone just yet.
We're working on that.
Yeah, we'll wait for it.
Yeah, but just tell me, where do you get? Like I said, you're gonna speak your mind. I give you credit for that. Where do you think you get that from?
Where do I get that from? That's a good question. Probably from seeing people who don't speak their mind and regret it. Probably from people seeing how you want to speak your mind, get your word out, and then it doesn't, and then seeing how that impacts you, how you think about what if I said this, what if I quoted this. But if you say what you think, then people know your stand. They know either you're a friend or you're not, and so far everyone on our schedule isn't really our friend, and I hope they do know that.
Tell it like it is, for sure. Too many people, especially in the NFL too, where it's so rehearsed, and it's very hard sometimes interviewing these guys because they basically it's scripted. A lot of their interviews and they're basically taught what to say and how to say it and stuff like that. So it's not always easy, but it's good. That's why I love covering high school games, because you guys generally speak from the heart. You don't have anybody coming in, PR person telling you this is how you should, don't do this, don't say that. I'm
sorry to interrupt. Actually, you do.
But no, you do sometimes. You have coaches. And that was my next question.
Interviews.
And that was my next question. Coach Ross, being a former college guy, and he certainly knows his way around the sport. Yeah. Has he ever come to you and said, "Hey, Mike, can you tone it down a little bit here"?
Yeah, that's happened. I mean, he's really told me stuff that, we were really supposed to know not to give them build more material, to go out and say we're going to beat them 85-0, and that's it. That's just stupid, though.
So we're getting the toned down version of Martinelli here.
I think we are,
which is still a good version, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's a little tweak.
Yeah, that's all right. All right.
Let me clarify too what I said. Just sometimes with coaches, you'll go to a practice and the coach might just say, they'll get in their head, and it kind of affects the interview because the kid doesn't want to say anything. So I think your best quote so far was before the Goshen game. You said, "If they're as good as yelling at us when they go by practice as they are at football." What was the feedback you got back from your? I'm sure your classmates were giving you some high five. What about on the field? Did you hear anything from Goshen?
Oh, maybe Goshen. They didn't really have that many nice things to say, and certainly not anything without the bleep button over here.
Do you guys hang out with the Goshen kids at all? There's no hanging out, no. Not at parties or anything. No off the field hanging out.
To be honest, though, they actually have been like nicer.
Yeah, since
you guys said that after I
think that's called respect, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I think on both sides when I talked to you and I talked to Justin and Tom after the game, Tom Connolly after the Goshen game. We have to point this out because sometimes sportsmanship, people don't pay enough attention to that.
Right.
But you said how it was a great on both sides, so that was nice to hear. And they may be your rivals, but Goshen did pick up their first win of the season this weekend, so that's good to see.
Man, Moriello did good. Honestly, like even with all the hate of the towns, they were very respectful, and through that we were respectful to them too. And it's still a rivalry, but it's definitely a lot of respect there.
I was going to ask both or either of you guys just about playing for Coach Ross. I mean, what has that been like? You go through a coaching change, and it's not always easy for kids. And I know you respected the last staff. What has it been like in this transition and with Coach Ross?
He's got a lot of experience. He's coached at like every level, it seems like.
Even with all that experience, like coming in, is there still is it still a transition period for you because you're getting used to him? Or does he still have anything to prove to you guys? Because as much as he has a good reputation on the college level, it's high school, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of people to say that. There have been a lot of talking outside the team, how Van Kuren was a better coach for high school and Ross wouldn't be able to adjust for high school. But if you come around the locker room, you can see that he adjusted very well. I mean, he still has policies there, but it's something you have to get used to because it's a different coaching change. I mean, when I came from Pine Bush my junior year, I went through that same coaching change. So I'm not seeing anything different. It's just different policies, and they see fit. And, I mean, it's been working. And it worked for his last year, and I doubted coming from Wright to Van Kuren. So they do things completely different.
Sure.
And one section's with Wright, and then we went out one section with Van Kuren, so that just proves they can be different policies, but both can be right.
Both can be effective in different ways. The different styles certainly don't mean that they're, it's not going to
It's really about all the players on the field.
Yeah, and has it been much different for you, Matt, in terms of playing for him?
Not really. It's like different things, but like it's the game of football.
It's the same concept.
Right. But, I mean, some coaches just, for whatever reason, kids just don't take to some coaches. But it sounds like you guys have adjusted pretty quickly to him. It's not like it was any type of great culture shock.
He's always in the school. He's a religion teacher, so you see him every day.
If you fought it, it just would make things worse.
Right.
You can't you can't get hung up. I mean, I love Van Kuren. He was a great man. He was a great coach. But you just can't get hung up because it would just make things worse,
Right, absolutely.
And we just got to move on and go with our future with Ross.
Last question for me, because I keep hearing this. I haven't had a chance to see you guys play. I apologize for that. I will see you soon, hopefully in a section title game. But I keep hearing about Matt, the way this kid runs. And everyone tells me breaking tackles, just great eyes, great vision, elusiveness. What do you notice watching this guy? What does he do so well?
Jeez, I mean, how long is it? 10 years I've seen him run the ball. After 10 years seeing him run the ball, that's probably the hardest question you can ever ask.
Yeah.
The way to describe the kid runs the ball, you can't in words. You need to see it with your own eyes, and then you need to look at the film to make sure you saw it with your own eyes. Because when he gets the ball in his hand, there's nothing that's stopping him.
Certain ferociousness, like
It's ferociousness, but then it's also elegant. It's like a bull trying to ballerina. Like, it's just the way he moves, and then the way he lowers his shoulder. You're not going to find that anyone else in Section 9.
How long have you been running the ball, Matt? Right from day one? Starting to play? Or?
I started playing in second grade, and I started as a quarterback, but I was more like a running type of quarterback. And then freshman year at JV, I was playing both quarterback and wingback. And then when I came to Burke, they had me, I was backup quarterback and receiver, but the running back got hurt, So I went in. I don't know. I never got back out, I guess.
Never looked out. Never looked back.
So it wasn't anything that you did from day one, from youth football on. It's just something that you kind of like started to excel at in the high school level.
Well, my dad always wanted me to play running back. It was one year he tried playing me at fullback, and that just lasted like the summer, and then I went back to quarterback. So.
Right.
Well, guys, it was great having you, and like I said, I'm sure we'll be in touch. We look forward to seeing you throughout the season, and thanks for coming in. That's Mike Martinelli and Matt Prisbacki, I guess the M&M boys. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
No problem.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we're back with the Varsity 845 podcast. This is Justin Rodriguez with Kevin Gleason. The M&M boys, Prisbacki and Martinelli, two good kids. Obviously, Martinelli, he's a quote machine. And obviously Matt's a great kid too.
I'll tell you what, if they have many more kids on that Burke team that are the size of those guys, they're going to be pretty good. They're pretty good this year.
Yep, we did talk that Marlboro Showdown should be good. I wish it was earlier in the season, but what are you going to do?
Yep.
So let's talk about some games this week. I guess we got to talk about Monroe-Newburgh, and then we're going to talk about the Class AA Division II games because I love that division. It's going to be wild.
Mm-hmm.
Monroe, Newburgh, we talked about the DeBose suspension. There's going to still be plenty of talent. What is your take on this game?
Well, I still think this is pretty close to a toss-up game. I do. Newburgh is obviously, without DeBose, a little bit of different dynamic there. It's a huge weapon they're missing. But, I just think... I just think really it's going to be kind of a score fest. I don't see a lot of really great defense in this game. I mean, I know I hate to disappoint Bernie Conley, and he's probably right now cursing me under his breath. But no, I just think there's going to be a lot of points put up this. I think it's going to be in the 30s.
Well, I've already flip-flopped several times on my pick. I've gone between one team and then back.
You notice I haven't picked anybody.
Well, I can't. I won't reveal my pick until Friday's morning. So.
Top secret. That's right.
But here's what I'm looking at. I still don't think either team has played their best football. I think Newburgh will be emotional, having lost to Bose. And I still think Newburgh might be the best team in Section 9. But I do think Monroe's defensively, that system can work. So I'm stumped on this game. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a little more low scoring than you think. But it is on turf. Next thing you know, there's some points put on the board, but I think Monroe will try to grind it out. They have Cole Jeanette in the backfield. That's basically it in the backfield. O'Malley is going to have to do a better job running the ball than he did last week. He obviously has talent, but I'm really, like I said, I'm stumped. I'm going to make a pick Friday, and like I said, I've already flip-flopped. I've already filled it out in my predictions. And in my game
it's
of
not
the
the
week,
first time you've done that, J-Rod. I'm sure podcast fans and local high school football fans are quite aware and used to you doing the flip-flop. But I just think that it's really hard to measure this game because both teams started off and then played some non-league competition, some out-of-the-area competition, which is real hard to get a gauge on exactly how good both these teams are. It just historically speaking, more recent history, they've played some barn burners.
Well, I don't want to play this game, but Monroe opened the season 35-0 over Holy Cross.
Yes.
The following week, Newburgh beat them 34-33. I think it was in overtime again.
Right.
I'm not going to put a lot of stock into that, but it is worth comparing. I will say this: I think to me, Monroe blew Newburgh out last year in the regular season. Forbes had, I think, almost 200 yards. The championship game, he had 140 yards. If they bottle him up, Newburgh's going to be in trouble. That would force Tariq Washington, young quarterback with potential, to really, it would be on his shoulders. And I have to talk to Coach Bianco and see what else he might roll out at running back. I'm sure he's not going to play his hand. But right. I still, like I said, I had someone write to me on Twitter about what I pumped Forbes up too much. That was at the beginning of the year, though.
Right.
That was before the season started. Some loser who got blocked, who was giving me trouble about putting Forbes up there, but hey, he's lived up to the hype. That to me is, he could potentially take that game over, but with the diabolical Bernie Connolly, I'm kidding, just the defensive. When he starts game planning on a defense, watch out. And if he shuts them down, then that's really going to change the dynamic. But
no doubt. And I'm sure part of my thinking is I still have the section title game fresh in my mind from last year and watching those teams go up and down the field. And I know it's totally different this year.
Yeah.
But I'm just used to seeing both those offenses run so fluidly.
Well, Newburgh has a little more experience in the trenches, but Monroe did a good job, especially against Minnesink. I do think, like I said, I think both of them played good. I think they can play better, and I think this is going to bring out the best in both teams. So look out for that prediction. I don't know how much confidence I have in it, but
well, let me just go out and predict Monroe Woodbury right now. And it's a big test for Washington. The quarterback. For Newburgh, it's a huge moment for him, I think, in terms of whether he's ready to take this team to the next level.
Same with O'Malley, though, and he's a good player. I think he's
true. I think O'Malley would have just a little bit more help.
They're both looking for, dare I say, that signature game. Could this be it?
Yep, no doubt.
Well, let's talk about AA Division II. I love the division. It's going to be wild. Minnesink at Valley Central Friday night, 7 o'clock. I'll be there. One key note about Valley Central, they'll be without two primetime players. Wide receiver John Avila, who can make some plays out of the backfield, and then Isaiah Broussard, a great basketball player. He's like 6'5".
Absolutely, sure.
He was the story at Beacon. I think we mentioned him in another podcast. Yep. He was the LeBron James of the BCANY tournament. And they're both out this week for disciplinary reasons. So 1 game suspension, and like I said, Kenny Gray still has some weapons. Donovan Murphy, Nick Pacheco, but that's going to hurt. And I'll say this: I liked Minnesink slightly. I was going to pick Minnesink either way, but since we're talking quarterbacks, I like Carosella, the Minnesink quarterback. He is an improved player. And he can run, he can pass. And he's a tough kid.
The thing that Kevin Gallagher told me about him is that he's just really smart player, doesn't make any mistakes, really fundamentally sound.
Yeah. I almost got ran over by Carousel at the Monroe game.
Oh, I wish I would have seen that.
Well, I was on my phone, of course, tweeting away, and I heard this herd
almost
coming at me,
deserved.
And I looked up. It would have been the worst because I would have gotten laid out.
Very disappointed that didn't come to fruition.
So I'm going to take Minnesink on that game. The other game, Division II, Class AA, you got Washingtonville, my preseason pick to win the division. I'm standing by that. They have Roosevelt coming in, who's 3-0. A little bit of a surprise. They're tough. They like to run the ball. I'm going to take Washingtonville in that game. I just think they have too many weapons. I like their quarterback too. Joe Tecklenburg has been stepping it up, and they got some big boys on the offensive line. Don Clark, he'll call a good game.
You love Don Clark, I've noticed. What is it? What's going on here?
He paid me.
You always have a nice word for Don Clark. Don, keep the checks coming.
Maybe next I'll say something nasty about it. No, but like I said, he does. I have to say, if Coach Clark listens, the next few weeks, I'm not going to mention you.
Roosevelt to me is a little bit of an unknown. We haven't seen him. Washington, we have seen. So it's a little easier to gauge Washington.
We have Saturday a rematch of last year's Class B championship. Marlboro at Rondout, 1:30. Here's the deal with Rondout. They beat Saugerties week 1, 14-7. I'm like, huh?
Right.
So I pick them to lose to Monticello. They beat Monticello handily. The next week, I pick them to beat Sullivan West. Sullivan West blows their doors off. So obviously, like many teams, I don't have a handle on Rondout. But you got to admit, after the Cornwall game and what Sullivan West did to Rondout, Marlboro, I'm thinking it's going to be Marlboro's day, and maybe pretty easily.
I'm not picking anybody to beat Marlboro in its class,
including our buddies from Burke. Our guests, should I say?
Well, I should say this week I'm not
guests.
picking anybody. I should say this week I'm not picking anybody. I don't know. I have to do some more homework on Marlboro, but I think they're a little down this year. But I'm certainly not picking Ron down. Sorry, guys. Up in Accord.
Well, the other thing too, remember Jim Mallett, the pride, once the pride of
That's
the
right.
Rondout Valley Ganders, 2000 Class B state championship, made history. And then what did they do? They canned him. But now he's at Marlboro.
Unceremoniously, I might add.
But now he's at Marlboro, and you know what? Rich Ward, he's a competitor, and they'll stick it to Rondout.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Just
There's no
like
mercy
when that
there.
trophy was handed to Malik last year when they won the championship. Was that choreographed?
Yep.
So, and of course, Rich Ward with the thickest skin in Section 9. So you have to give him credit because nothing's going to face him.
No, definitely not. Except for an occasional reporter, but that's another story.
Well, that would be me. But no, like I said, they've done a wonderful job with that program. Rich has done a wonderful job, and Jim's been, a great assistant, just a valuable asset.
Absolutely.
Among others on that staff.
Absolutely.
So we're going to take Marlboro. So let's talk about this other game, Middletown at Kingston. Like I said, Middletown has a chance here to be set up because they have Kingston, then Pine Bush, and I know that's their next two games. I believe it would be Monroe. It would be interesting if they could come in. That would
with
be
3 straight.
4-1, 2-0 Monroe. Hey, it would get me there. It's not too many times in recent years we're running to Fowler Field, to cover a Middies game,
And it certainly would get you there, being that it's only a couple miles from the office, and you'd have a chance at beating deadline. But that's a whole other story that our listeners probably would need a refresher on. But I don't know. That's a really intriguing game, Middletown at Kingston, because Kingston's usually pretty good at home. Great tradition. They're 0-3. They got to be hungry as heck, And Middletown just. That's a game. That's another game for Middletown. Show us what you got. You want to take that next step.
Saying that, yeah.
But really, you beat Valley Central. We're now going to beat Kingston. Come back and beat Pine Bush. Start beating these AA schools with some consistency.
Well, the thing is with that is it's you lose to Kingston, party's over. You're not making the playoffs because, with all due respect,
right?
I'm saying right now, hey, listen, Monroe. If whoever wins Monroe Newburgh, you won the division. Sorry, nobody's beating them. I'm not going out on a limb. So if you're Middletown, if you lose to Kingston, playoffs are over. Not to say maybe you could still win some other games and make for a better season. But if you want to that's Coach Donahue being in here a couple weeks ago with us. He wanted to make the playoffs. So
he's not talking about 500 record. He's talking about taking a large step.
Kingston has some skill players. They have Matthews, the running back, Beesmer, the quarterback, still a work in progress, only a sophomore. But I think this will be a tough game.
I do. I think it's gonna be a close game too.
They're on the road. It's going to be a long ride. You have to think. You hope they're not too confident.
No, they better not
be. 2 wins.
They better not be.
Like I said, they need to win that game.
Yep.
And so again, we have Cornwall hosting Goshen, and I looked at the schedule, and Wallkill has Saugerties. Both Wallkill and Cornwall, their next good game is going to be the last week of the regular season when Cornwall trots into Wallkill. They're going to cakewalk until that.
Yep.
You have Liberty and Tri-Valley. It's a Class C game. Tri-Valley, undefeated. I'm going to take Tri-Valley. Liberty's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Tri-Valley. And again, 3-0, undefeated. And then we have a non-league game, former Class B rivals, New Paltz over Red Hook. I'm going to take New Paltz. I think that's going to be a tough game.
I think New Paltz is, it looks like they're putting it into shifting into gear here.
Another good game, non-league, Millbrook at Highland. Millbrook rushing for about 1,100 yards a game. And then you have Highland. I'm going to take Highland and Brandon Mack. It's a non-league game, but I think it should be a good one. And let's just talk one last game before we wrap up. You have Warwick at Pine Bush. Warwick 3-0. One interesting stat about Warwick. I think their 3 opponents this year are 2-10.
Yes.
So you had St. Francis Prep, then Goshen, than Kingston. They're 2-10, but I think, like I said, I had mentioned this in my rankings for this week. All Warwick cares about is 3-0, and all you can do is face who's put ahead of you. So it's another winless team they're playing, and I think they might make quick work of Pine Bush.
Well, but I'll tell you what, Pine Bush, it's time for them to dig really deeply here and show us what they have, because, if they lose this and they go to 0-4, a lot of teams, a lot of kids are pretty close to packing in at 0-4. So
if they haven't already.
This is pretty much a must-win for them.
They might be a little dinged up.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, the other game that we have to talk about, it's a Class D game. You have Livingston Manor and Eldred, and again, Chester running the show in that division. So that's kind of a must-win because, with all due respect, you're probably going to lose to Chester. So we have Eldred hosting Manor. Eldred lost the tough game to Tri-Valley. Livingston Manor blew Roscoe away. I'm going to take Eldred in that game. And Eldred will, get a shot at Chester. A few years ago, that was a good rivalry. So, once again, some great games. And keep in mind, next week, with the Jewish holiday, all the games are being played for I think 90% on Thursday night. But we'll be back again next week. Thanks for listening. This is Justin Rodriguez with Kevin Gleason for the Varsity 845 Football Podcast. Have a great weekend.